Hello, everyone. As promised, I am going to just give a quick overview of the assignment for Module 1, talk through the description, and just give some explanations about what you're going to be thinking about to allow you to maybe get a head start and get started on it. Before we start the overview, I do want to just tell you again, I've mentioned this in some announcements, but we will be spending time with this assignment. I'll be providing you time for some guided practice, working in partners, working as a whole group on the different parts of this assignment so that you can think about what do you need to be considering, what questions do you need to be asking yourself when you are making decisions about what your literacy block is going to look like, how you're going to establish that literacy block and the routines and structures that are necessary, and then going into some long-range planning. So we are going to be practicing that and working on that together during our team's meeting next Tuesday. But I just wanted to make sure that you have this available. We can talk through it. You can watch through it to give you a chance to maybe get a head start and start working on it. So again, I'm just doing this so that you can see it. We all have different comfort levels with Blackboard. So just a reminder, to get to this assignment, there are two places you can go. You can go to Module 1 page and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and the link to the assignment will be there. Or you can go directly to the assignment section and scroll down until you find the assignment. So Module 1, a plan for establishing and implementing a balanced literacy program. I'm going to open this link in a new tab just so we can look at it. All of the information that is on this page, if you open it, is also on the assignments page. So everything that you would need to look at and read through, or any links, is here. It's also here. So the one reason that you will need to go here and click directly on that link is because this is actually where you'll submit your papers. So if you've not used Blackboard before, I would bet that a lot of you have, but if you haven't, this is where you're going to submit your papers. Browse My Computer, upload your file, and submit. Okay, so let's go back over here. So first and foremost, right underneath, if you click, it will take you to a printable copy of the rubric. You can, over here on the page where you actually go to the assignment, you can access a rubric there too, but this is a kind of a user-friendly printable copy. So again, that's right under the header on the assignment page. So the purpose of this project is for candidates to apply what they've already learned about what they have learned throughout the module about a balanced literacy framework in order to create a vision for their own future literacy classrooms. It will prepare you to begin the school year with the routines and structures, to think about what you want your literacy block to look like each day, each week, and then give you an opportunity to practice with some long-range planning, which is really so key to things running smoothly in the classroom and taking a lot of the stress off of you as you're doing your weekly and your day-to-day planning, having that long-range plan in place as a guide. So you can look through on your own the course objectives and the description, because we are going to be looking more closely at the description when we go down to here and see the checklist and the templates. This section right here is the resources, and those are any resources or materials that you have worked with throughout this module that particularly apply to this assignment. So the one that I would point out as very important is the Developing a Comprehensive Balanced Literacy Framework VoiceThread presentation, because that lays out, and not all of the information that is in your textbook, in your Teaching for Comprehending and Fluency, not everything that's in this PowerPoint is in your textbook. There is additional information, additional options for what might fit into the different parts of your literacy block every day and each week. So definitely make sure that you have watched that and really understand what is shared in that presentation. Happy Reading is a video that's on Microsoft Stream that you can watch to see an expert teacher and her explanation of the importance of setting routines and just some suggestions. I love her. She's kind of like everyone's grandma, but she has some really good ideas and just talks about the importance of it. And then the Fountains and Pinnell, a little bit it talks about the text, but the continuum especially will be helpful, and we'll be spending more time with that next Tuesday. And then we'll go back up here to the checklist and links to help guide you and get you started. So we said where the rubric is. We said where you can hand it in. If you go to this link, though, this is going to be particularly helpful because that is going to be where you will be able to access any templates. And this setup is going to be the same for every assignment. So again, you do need to be logged into your McDaniel Outlook account, your Microsoft account, or OneDrive account in order to access this link. So here again is the rubric. You can look at that on your own. And so let's look at that together though. So what is the rubric? So the first part 1 is a weekly literacy block schedule. So this is really when we're talking in the VoiceThread on the Balanced Literacy Framework, there are a lot of different models and types of instruction that can be used in the reading block and in the writing block and in the word study block. And that presentation tells all about them. So what you want to think about is with your students, if you are not a classroom teacher and you're working in a practicum, you want to think about the grade level of your practicum. If you are not in a practicum or in a classroom, or if you're in a classroom that is a different content area, you might want to just pick a grade level that you feel like you're familiar with. You will be using the continuum as a guide, so you don't have to worry about pulling objectives and things out of thin air. But so you're thinking about all the different parts that could be in a literacy block, and you're going to just design a weekly schedule for it. So your weekly schedule is going to include a reading block, a writing block, and a word study block. And then you need to say what are the parts of those blocks. So what will your reading block include? Will your reading block include a mini lesson and reading groups and conferencing? Will it include, based on the ages of your kids, will it be an interactive read aloud and then some reading groups? Will the groups be guided reading groups? Will you have a mix of guided reading groups and some flexible grouping? So all of those things, and I know that right now this is probably sounding overwhelming to you, but again, we're going to be working on this together on Tuesday. Any questions that you have, we can spend as much time as you need on it. Again, for the writing, what is your writing block going to look like every day? What is the focus going to be? And then word study is where you're going to see a little more flexibility, not flexibility, but a little more difference in what the focus is going to be for each day. So with reading and writing, pretty typically your schedules are going to be very similar. Each day is going to look pretty much the same. So you're going to be thinking about what you want to include in those days. But with word study, you may have a day where you may have certain days that you work on phonics and explicit phonics instruction. And then maybe one day a week you do current events, or one day a week you do poetry and you focus on poetry and have objectives that go along with that. So what do you want your weekly schedule? If you would rather do a bi-weekly schedule to include different parts that you learn about in the presentation, that is okay too. But this is just going to be 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what you're going to be including in each part. So it can be a bulleted list. It can be a chart if you want to make it a chart. However it best works for you. So make sure that you effectively talk about your classroom routines, various grouping configurations, and how you will provide a literacy-rich physical environment as well, which you're going to be reading more about. So that will be more of a narrative. So the first part can be again, a chart, a bulleted list, however you want to present that. The second indicator, the second requirement would be more of a narrative paragraph form that you're going to talk about some of the things that you think are important in terms of this. Part 2 is establishing a plan for establishing literacy routines and structures. And one of the things that I emphasize a lot in the voice threads that you're going to be watching is that the importance of setting routines. I have a slide that says, don't sail the ship until it's built. You want to spend time teaching them the expectations for all of the things that you're going to be asking them to do in terms of routines and structures independently. How do they select books? How do they respond? How do they make a decision about whether or not they want to keep reading the book? Just anything that you would want them to do. Again, there is some discussion of that in the voice thread, and there should also be a handout that suggests some mini lessons as well. So what you're going to do then is you're going to say 20 days worth of lessons. These do not have to be long, paragraph, many paragraphs. Each one, you're just going to say, what is the mini lesson that you're going to teach that day, and what's the learning outcomes for each lesson? So maybe you're going to teach choosing a book for independent reading, and then maybe the learning outcomes would be understanding how the library is organized, and how to pick a just right book. Or maybe that's more than one day. Maybe you have the same learning outcome with different mini lessons over multiple days in order to achieve that. And then a short description of how you would do it. Just a real quick short paragraph about how would you teach this? What might you do? Is there an activity that you would do? Would you just do it as a verbal mini lesson? But again, we'll be looking at some samples of these when we meet on Tuesday. And then finally, the last part is a long-range plan for literacy instruction. So once you have everything set up, it is very helpful to do long-range planning at the beginning of each quarter, or even looking further ahead if you have the time, and start looking at how you're going to make your instruction flow throughout the quarter, how you're going to connect your reading and your writing blocks, how you're going to move from one focus to another. So you're going to develop a 9-week quarter that identifies cohesive and well-connected goals for the 3 parts of the literacy block. And these goals will come directly from the continuum. You do not have to, again, find them anywhere. You will be pulling them from the continuum. And then you're going to select a variety of quality instructional resources that could meet the needs of these students and would address these goals. So again, not a huge list, but what could you teach? What could you use to teach some of these goals that you're planning out? And again, we will be looking at some samples, and we will be working on one together to give you a chance to get used to it and feel more comfortable with it. So there is one template that is available that you can be looking at, and that is one example of a long-range planning template. We'll be, again, looking at some more samples of long-range plans when we meet on Tuesday, but this is one that you could use. And you can see that so you're going to be thinking about your reading block that you developed, your weekly reading block or your bi-weekly reading block, and those parts of the block you're going to have to plan out. So if you decide that every day you're going to do a mini lesson during Reader's Workshop, then what is your mini lesson going to be? What is the focus of it? What is the goal that you're going to be teaching during that mini lesson? And then what are some instructional resources? What are some read alouds that you might do with it? Or articles that you might pull in to do that mini lesson with? If you said that you're going to have, if you said that once a week you're going to do a current event, then you're going to have somewhere on the plans where it says current events, and you're going to just talk about what will be your focus for looking at the current events. Maybe for the first few weeks you're looking at the current events, and the kids are just working on being able to understand and identify important ideas within the current events. And then maybe you shift it to, then they're talking about how that current event connects to their lives, or so on and so forth. If you're looking at vocabulary, you're thinking, what are the goals? Maybe you're starting with, you're starting with a study of, if you're in a higher grade, of figurative language, different parts of figurative language, or homophones, and how long you're going to work with that, and how you might address those goals. So again, this is just one template. your template might look different based upon the weekly schedule that you create. So when we go back to here, we will be working on this. We will have time to practice it, and we will make sure that you're feeling comfortable and you have a handle on it before you go start working independently. I promise you. But this is something, these activities are just super helpful to have under your belt as you start working. I know Kate is already going to be starting in her own classroom this year. It's going to be helpful for you to kind of be thinking about what you want your routines to look like, what you want your block to look like. Just to have these that you could maybe pull out when you go to start teaching and at least use as a reference. Maybe it's going to change based upon your grade level, but you have something to start with. So I do hope and I do think that you will find these useful. So I look forward to seeing you then. If you want to get started on this and you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to meet with you through office hours, through a Teams meeting to talk more specifically about any questions that you have. That's what I'm here for. So please reach out, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.